Hey, y'all. Happy Tuesday. So glad to be here with you. I don't know about you, but I'm glad it is not tax day anymore. Um, we are live lean coaching for lean coaches, and it's Tuesday. Time for another fun filled episode again. And so thank you for being here. And we've got a fun show planned for you today. Um, And as always, we bring on lean coaches, lean consultants, people just like you who are out in this world looking to make an impact, make processes better, help people. And, if you're in that space right now where you're looking to do your own thing, launch your own business, or you are looking to move forward in your career, you feel stuck, that's my jam. You're the kind of person that I love to sit down, help provide clarity, and get next steps and action to move you forward. So if that's your thing, that's the place you're in, reach out, shoot me a DM, and let's have a conversation. But without further ado, let's bring on today's guest sitting in the hot seat. She is someone that I've gotten to know over the last, oh gosh, probably 6, 7 months. And she is just got so much energy and passion for lean, continuous improvement, and operational excellence. And in fact, we were just talking before this about this whole idea of how to frame the concept of lean and continuous improvement. We're just having a little fun with that, but you'll really enjoy her. Thank you so much, Amanda Young, for being here on Lean Coaching for Lean Coaches. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for the folks that aren't familiar with you, aren't connected with you, of course, please do go ahead and connect with Amanda and get to feel all that fun energy and lean goodness. Share with folks a little bit about what you're up to these days in your journey.
Yeah, so I've spent 20 years in aerospace and branched off last fall to do my own consulting company, focusing on operational excellence and continuous improvement. And so it's been picking up steadily. And one of the things we've talked about is, my elevator pitch. So maybe one day we'll work on that one too. Um, And so right now, I've got a couple of clients that I'm working with. I'm doing a value stream mapping exercise with one. And, this one was the first kind of big value stream mapping exercise that I've done without my own team that reported to me. And so I've had the challenge of I would say, the naysayer of the group. Um, you know, why are we here? Our process is perfect. So we're going into day two this week, and I know that this is going to be the biggest hurdle. Everyone else seems to be on board with what we're doing and why we're doing it, and that it's not a people problem; it's a process issue, and that we're reviewing or trying to put more money in everybody else's pocket. So when you've got your own team, I think it's a little bit different than when you're walking into a new company and no one knows who you are and you're trying to
Right.
pitch
Yeah.
this. Um, so that's kind of my struggle. And, I've had this person has been in this company for 20 years. They've been working this line for close to that. So they know it very intimately. And we really need
Yeah.
that person's expertise and their understanding and their buy-in, because really this process is for them in the long run, right?
Yeah. So sounds like lots of fun.
Yes, lots of fun.
And we've got other people here joining in. Chris, good to see you, and Wojciech, good to see you as well. Thanks for coming along. And of course, if you've got any thoughts or questions or whatnot as we're having this conversation, please do drop those in. Share where you're from and what you're thinking of the conversation. If you've had this kind of experience hopping into a value stream before, where you have folks that how should we put it, aren't open or to the conversation, which, as we know, there's reasons behind all of that. And so, but I think we can all relate to this in the change management space in some way, shape, or form. you know,
Yeah.
you're coming in wanting to help, and they're maybe feeling some kind of way about that. So, what's like your what are you picturing the way that you would like if you could have your druthers, how would you like this whole thing to go down? in your, in your ideal world?
I know this is one of those situations that always takes time, right? And a lot of people don't understand this until the very end. And they're then at the end they go, "Oh, this is why we did this and it works." And they
Yeah.
understand the concepts, right? But I don't want to wait to the end to get to that. I would really like to go into the future state mapping exercise, tomorrow's current state. So I'd really like to go
Okay.
and be able to
Yep.
go into day 3 of future state with an ally instead of someone who's
Ah.
fighting against this.
Um, what does and that I think that's something we all when we're doing this work, having somebody that it's that whole idea that we use a pull and push, right? You don't want to be dragging somebody um through the mud. And yeah, it's a whole thing. And pleased to have you, Halal. It's good to see you, as well as Jesse. Yeah, absolutely. If I decide if there ain't resistance, I don't want it. Of course you wouldn't. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And there's always that help, there's always levels of that, right? And
Yep.
just to get into this exercise, I had to kind of push through some of
Yes.
the older mentality that was there in leadership of that same sort of mentality. So it's almost a little bit of a culture thing, which I can kind of see. Um,
Yeah.
and that the healthy resistance, that
Yeah.
the being a little bit standoffish and protective, I totally get, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like if somebody comes into your home and was like, "Hey, Amanda, that blanket, you sure you want that over by that back there in the corner chair?" I mean, like, the feng shui is just not doing it for me. Like, you're not going to be like, "Of course, come." Like, especially if it's somebody that you just met. It's not going to be necessarily the most welcoming.
Yeah, I don't want anyone going through my silverware drawer and telling me how to reorganize it.
Are you sure the salad forks and the regular forks go in the same slots? I just don't know here. That's not very efficient of you, Amanda.
Yeah, so
Oh,
how do we break it down and also
yeah.
I want her to get something out of this too as well, right?
Yeah.
It's a learning experience for her. Um, we did a brief intro to lean, where we talked about the wastes, the 8 wastes that we talked about, you know, um, some of the verbiage. We talked about cost of poor quality. We talked about value add versus non-value add, kind of spaghetti diagrams, what we're doing. So we
Love it.
gave a basis, but it's still not quite biting onto that.
Um, yeah, that totally makes sense. What sorts of so you want an ally, which is awesome. Do you have like a way of telling? Because I mean, you've done this in the past, clearly.
Mhm.
So what kind of things do you typically see when you've got like, oh yeah, like they're in an ally and they're in it and they're going to do the work, and they see the benefits. Like what do you normally typically see in somebody that's that ally type of person?
Someone who brings those ideas forward and who's not afraid to speak up when in that again that future state, right, where we're
Ah,
really breaking things down and building them back again. That's someone I need someone who's not afraid to speak up and say, yes, we should do that way, or no, we shouldn't do that way. I also really can kind of see right now the writing on the wall is that it's going to be almost that pushback of, no, we can't do that, no, we can't do that, no, we can't do that.
right.
And I think that's going to be not only a struggle for the me, but also the rest of the team. They're going to get frustrated with that constant um, negativity. And really,
Mm,
this is fun. This stuff is fun. This should be positive.
yeah.
We're here to improve margins and put more money in their pocket at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, but any of those things that I said didn't seem to really register. Also, the other leaders of the company spoke out. I think it was repeated about 5 or 6 times on day
Oh
one,
yeah.
and kind of specifically targeted to this one person.
Ah.
Um, and so I really, it's going into this with positivity and having an open mind. And, it's kind of difficult to force that, right?
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. You can't force somebody to feel a certain way. That never works with our kids, and it doesn't work when we're trying to do value stream maps, and twisting an arm doesn't change people's hearts and minds to get into that space that you want them to. So they're not afraid to speak up, which totally makes sense. We want those ideas to kind of be coming up to make it better, right? Especially when you're in that future state. Like, how can we make this the best way? So, what other things would you see in somebody that's an ally in in like your, and maybe even thinking of like past ones that have gone well, like things that you see in the people that are like, okay, yeah, this is the shit right here.
Creativity, right? Like I always say, uh nothing's outside of the realm of possibilities in lean, right? If you tell me, hey Amanda, I need a unicorn to get the work order from A to B, we're going to figure out a way to get a goat with a horn in here, and some way. Like nothing is outside of the realm of possibilities. And
Yeah.
again, we need that headspace of those crazy creative, because
Yeah.
that's where some of the most innovative improvement opportunities really come from, is those people who reach way out into left field and say like, well, what if we just did automation, or brought in a robot, or did this, or
Yep.
um, completely changed this entire cell, and now it's one table, and something crazy that's not been done before. But you have to have that, you have to be in that experimentation mode,
Yeah.
and not afraid, and creative.
Yeah, I think creativity is massive. Being able to think outside the box, and hell, if a unicorn came walking in on the line wherever I was working, I'd be like, "Let's go!" I need some sparkles, some fairy dust, all the things. That's for
Yeah.
sure. Well, I mean, that makes sense, right? That's the ideal way we'd like things to go. Um, can you say more about how things are going right now in where you want, and you, just to be just logistically speaking, how many days is the event, how many people are you working with, just so we kind of have that picture in our minds of that.
Yeah, it's a 4-day event. We've done a brief kind of walkthrough of the process, and then I did interviews with each of the team members and with leadership. We've got about 10 people total.
Okay.
um, some of those will come and go throughout the process, but most, it's a core team of about eight people, 8 to 10 people. um, I would say 90% of the team is on board in that creative space, in that positive space. But you can see how, especially after day one, and this is probably one of my fears too, is going into day two, is
Hmm.
you can kind of see how this negativity is kind of wearing on the others, because they're having to
uh
really pull. And you want to kind of stop that as soon as
yeah,
possible.
yeah. So you've got a 4-day event. Is that like all through this week,
It's
Monday to
one
Friday, or?
one this week and then one next week. So it's like one each week.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Yep.
you have like one every week for 4 weeks. Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. So that gives us kind of a picture of like taking us to where you're at and putting ourselves in your mind. Because again, I think we've all had this experience, whether it's doing this kind of work or in any small group work, where you have like good energy going, and then there's one person in the space, and everybody is kind of feeling that, and it pulls people into the, I don't want to use the word, but like black hole, right? You're getting sucked into that, because especially if they've got like a big influence, right, or big personality, it can happen, for sure.
Yeah. And she's got a big influence there.
Mm, mm.
Makes bread for like everybody every
Oh,
Monday.
okay.
Like,
Hey,
yeah.
then
Like,
who
and it's
doesn't
almost
love
like,
a good loaf of bread?
Yes, absolutely. But apparently, if you don't take the bread, there's also some guilt that goes along with it.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense for sure. So, what you obviously you've done this before. Um, you've got this picture of how you want it to go. Is there any other, like, in terms of the actual event itself? Is there any other, like, when you come to the end of it, is there any other thing that you'd love to have accomplished just overall in the overall event that would be awesome?
You know, honestly, at this point, just having her happy at the end and go and step back and go, wow, like look what we accomplished. You know, we've got obviously goals of margin and throughput and things like that that
Yep.
we want to accomplish. There's batch sizing and some shop floor layout stuff that needs to get addressed. Those will be big ones. But really, like, it's the hearts and minds for me. Because
Yeah.
it's not, and again, continuous improvement's continuous, right? And I you stress that when I leave, keep going, keep making it better, keep improving it,
Yeah.
and also then they can be stronger moving on to the next department,
Right.
and use me, but maybe not. Maybe they're strong enough on their own, and they have a good understanding of that, and it can permeate. I think this is
Yeah.
my goal is for this to take a little bit of a hold in the culture, I guess.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I think that's all of our desire, right? We want it to be not just, hey, we're one and done, right? We want this to be it's continuous improvement. We want it to take hold in the culture and like you said, the hearts and minds, which I think is beautiful. So maybe what are the ways that, like, thinking of like current state of how things are right now, what are the things that you're noticing and seeing if you can take yourself back to um this first day? Like, what were the things that you were seeing that were kind of giving you this energy specifically?
Definitely some snarky comments. Um very closed off, body language,
Yep.
not participating, closed off body language. Um the quick to jump to everything's in a line and it's perfect.
Right.
That was kind of that off the bat statement. And when we started walking the floor, things started coming up of why is that there and why is that over there and why is that all the way across the shop? I thought you said this wasn't a line, right? So, as you start to like piece this out, and one of the things I said before I left just is that don't touch anything, because I could see that this was the type of person that would probably be like, I'm gonna go fix my stuff now, because everyone was just on the floor and talking about ideas. So there's, I see this ownership and pride there, and
Yes.
I think that's the big driver. Is there's this huge ownership, huge pride behind it,
That's
um,
good.
which I want. That's passion. Like, I love that passion.
Hmm.
But the attitude, and then I got this bye at the end of the day, and I was like, whoa, what was that?
That was the signal, apparently.
Yeah. And then also the one of the leaders came in and said that she had said to him that, what are we doing wrong?
Mm,
Which was a big one for me. It's not that you're not doing
yeah.
anything wrong. So I've toyed with, do we sit down as a team and reset again for day one?
Mm,
Do we try and teach more lean understanding? Do we do a paper airplane exercise? Do we do something along those lines to try and break it down a little bit? But I don't know.
yeah, this is it's an interesting scenario. And I think one of the things that I've got some thoughts on things, but I always love to have you maybe toss out some ideas of experiments to try, because at this point you're at the I don't know, right? You're at the threshold of knowledge, for lack of a better word, right? And so it's mm, we kind of identified the obstacle, the thing that's in the way right now of getting you where you want to get to. Um, Maybe you could name more clearly what it is that you don't know, so that you can like surface an experiment to try to see if to move around that, right? So
Mhm.
what like if you can name specifically what's in your way
What's in my way?
of getting this event and this team to where you want it to be. What's like right in the way?
The personalities, really. Um, I think that everyone not being on this one personality not being on the same page with the rest of it is really getting in the way of the entire success of
Mm,
of this project. And it's that, how do you help someone seek to understand
yeah,
a
that is
perspective that they don't want to maybe understand?
right. So my wonder, like when I because being married, you have spaces where you get in spaces and your partner gets in spaces where you want them to understand, but they're not in that space right in that moment as much as you want them to be. And so how do you navigate like those things, or with your kid, or with a friend, when mm, you're facing this same kind of resistance? What sorts of things do you do in those moments to help um, get you to a place where you want to get to in that relationship?
Discussion, talking it through, right? And I usually go back to them to try and understand their perspective more.
Right.
um you know I didn't understand what you meant by that. Can you explain further to me? Um and especially if there's frustration on that other side, trying to understand and not being defensive myself. That's, the minute
Right.
I throw up that wall,
Right.
I might as well just go shopping, because
That's right. Maybe so.
yeah, no one's gonna get anywhere. And sometimes maybe that shopping trip and coming back is the way to do it too, circling back. And who knows? I might walk in tomorrow and she might have a totally different attitude. Maybe the week did her well of sitting and listening and thinking about this, but you know, I could only hope. Um, but really, just discussion. Understanding that other perspective.
Yeah, one of the things that I remember this book group I was a part of. It was a few years back, and it was on having hard conversations. I forget the name of the book itself. I just remember this reframe though. It's always stuck with me. Is when you you're anticipating a hard conversation, having in your mind what you want and what you don't want, and then being like clear in like when you're having the conversation, and like coming in with curiosity. Like obviously you're not like, okay, I have an agenda that you will get this. But if hey, this is what I'd like out of this conversation, this is what I don't want. And I think it's important having both of those, because like you want these people to be on board. I want you to know I see your ownership and pride. I don't want you to feel like we're going to destroy all your hard work or whatever. I mean, you've been there, so you felt the energy, right? That.
Mhm.
But when you come in with that, I find that can be a little scary, of course, because you're being vulnerable. But when we do that, like you said, and you're not defensive, something changes in the energy with the other person. Maybe not right off the bat, but especially if they see you continuing to show up that way, I feel like that kind of energy says something and can allow the guard to maybe come down a little bit.
Absolutely. The energy for sure. And, I have no problem going in humble and, completely vulnerable. And, I have used that kind of tactic in the past, which it has helped. And try again that seek to understand of, hey, I know that you really want the best. I know that, what can I do to help you? I'm here to help you. Um, and try to explain it another way. There is a language barrier as
Mhm.
well. So I think
Sure.
that also is a struggle, for the understanding part.
Sure.
At least I can see her having a difficult time understanding some of the words and things that I'm using. So I'll try and stop. And I think, breaking it down of that, hey, this is why we're here and I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
What and you've got so much time in this, and you've gotten this as far as it has. It's beautiful, it's set up well. We're not here to change it. It's not a against you, or it's the process, not the people, right? All
Yep.
of the words.
So what would you like? What's the experiment you want to try then when you go in, either between now and then to set it up, or then to help with this?
I think either having a one-on-one conversation with her, or having a conversation with her and the leader on that side of the this activity, where we just kind of sit down. I'm not quite sure which might be the best. So I might maybe I would tap on my contact and see his thoughts, on that conversation, and if it would go better if it was just me, or if it would go better, with as a more formal conversation. I have a feeling that the less formal the conversation,
Right.
the probably better it's going to be.
So what does that look like? What do you want to try, just to be like clear and specific on that?
Maybe just her and I take a small walk together in the morning on the shop floor and have a little bit of a discussion, just her and I.
And what would that look like, like in your ideal? How would you like that to go, or not go?
I just want a little bit of that chip to come off the shoulder for her. Just, one shoulder, one little bit of that chip. If we could get that so that I've got a little bit of a space to creep in, that would be fantastic.
So what do you expect from this conversation?
Um, I expect her to be a bit, cold shouldered to me at first, but
Hmm.
I think I would expect that after this conversation, that day two would be a little bit more open. I'd get a little bit more communication, positive communication, and not in that negative undertone.
What
And
about for you?
more,
What do you expect for you? Like, what do you expect to experience?
oh, I hope I get a sigh of relief after this. That weight, and
Yeah.
I've always seen it as a challenge, that the naysayer on the line. I've always seen that as a challenge of, like, if
Yeah.
I can change that person's perspective, we're
Yeah.
going to win, right? Um, and I know I can get there. It's just getting there in a different environment that I've never been in before, and that I don't have that leadership control over.
Right, and I think part of it, right, you don't have control at a certain level of people's attitudes and stuff, but you can control how you show up, right,
Yeah.
in these ways, and having these conversations and coming in, like you said, with vulnerability, with curiosity, not being defensive, and yeah, just saying, being honest and acknowledging them and their work, right, and being curious in that space. And I think that, well, I'm going to be very interested to hear how this goes, and how you experience it. Obviously, we're all rooting for a amazing outcome where the chip comes off the shoulder, and she comes in at the end and things are all wow. Of course, that's the ideal scenario, but in the end, I'm rooting for you to learn something through this process as well. Because this won't be the last time that this will
No.
happen, of course. And I think, when we look back, we can all take, um, and reflect and learn something from it. Regardless of this turns out amazing or she just continues to stay in the space, there's going to be opportunity to learn because you've got an experiment here going on. So I'm excited to hear how it goes. So would you be open to sharing how it goes with the
Absolutely.
afterwards? We'd all love to hear. When is the next session?
Tomorrow morning.
Cool. Okay. And so you're going to tap on your contact
Today.
when?
Today. Yep. I'll tap on my contact today and just let them know, hey, this is sort of the plan. I just want a little bit of one-on-one time with this assembler, and then bring that curiosity, that vulnerability, that trying to understand and kind of level set a little bit before we go into day 2.
I just did this post yesterday where I shared about the lead and lag measures that I have for myself, and the lead measures I have are like bravery, curiosity, listening, presence, those kind of things, and then my lag measures are being proud of how I showed up. So what I hope for you is after this conversation tomorrow, however it goes, that you can look back, you can go, yeah, my lead measures of those things, I was brave and all those things. And then my lag measure of like, I'm proud of how I showed up, regardless of the outcome of she's present or not, you're proud of how you showed up. And so that's my hope for you tomorrow as you have this conversation. So thank you so much for being so open, sharing your experience. I think we all have been there. And as Chris says here, we've all had naysayers and we've all had people who, they're challenging, but that's why we love this work. And if it was everybody was on board, right, then this would not be the fun it is, right? And so thank you for sharing. And of course, please connect with Amanda and get all that energy that she's got going on. This has been a blast. And if you'd like to come in and have this kind of fun, sit in the seat, I've got openings here. So please shoot me a message and we can get you sitting in the seat and get you some clarity, get you a next step to push you through and to doing this kind of fun work that Amanda's doing like this or whatever's in your way. So thank you again, Amanda. And thanks everybody for being here today. I appreciate it. It was super fun. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you on Thursday.